Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2023 show. I'm your host, Don Kay, and we are coming to you from the Green Street Pub and Eatery on Green Street in Brownsburg. We are presented by the Indy Dental Group. When I talk about them frequently, which I do, it's because they are the best. They're run and owned by Indy 500 veteran Dr. Jack Miller and his wife, Dr. Liz, and they are spectacular. Their techs are top of the line. If you think it's time to have your teeth checked, I highly recommend. Call and make an appointment. The number is 317-846-6125. That's the Indy Dental Group. They got 5 offices. They'll find one near for you. VP Insurance. You have a problem with insurance, you need something special, get the best price you can get, then you go to VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. They're just about a mile west of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You can give Mike Pardee or Tom a call and give them the information, what you're looking for. The number is 317-248-0070. You like vintage cars, you like Trans Am? Well, SVRA is in full swing. They got them both. Tony now owns also the Trans Am series, and he's got the F3 and the F4 series as well. So if you're interested in seeing one, go to svra.com, check out the schedule, find the track you can get to, and I highly recommend you go. Great vintage racing, sports cars, Indy cars, Trans Am. You want it, they got it. Is anybody looking for tickets to the 500? I've got 6. They're in section S28, rows GG and HH, and there's seats 14, 15, and 16. They're back to back to back. If you're interested, get in touch with me. They're $135 face, and that's all they want. So if you need some tickets, give me a holler. And my first guest is anxiously awaiting. He can't wait till we chat. He is, of course, a race winner. He's a champion. He spent 17 years with ABC, ESPN on television, and he now works for Tony Perella with the F4 and the F3 series. And when I invited him to come, he said, "Let me check my calendar." The calendar was open
Everybody
today.
checks their calendar. Come on now.
Except for Dr. Mark, his is full. He doesn't have to look; it's always full. Of course, I'm talking about Scott Goodyear.
Been doing this show with you for a long, long time, and I know things took a lull in COVID, so it's nice to be back. And this is a nice place. I mean, I'm going to come here and start eating the food. I mean, we had a delay here by what, 10 minutes? 15 minutes, so I was about ready to go and grab a menu. It was good.
What got you into motorsports? I mean, you couldn't get a job at McDonald's or Burger King. What got you into motorsports?
Oh gosh, I'm not even sure. There was that. Was there McDonald's and Burger King and this back in the 70s when? I mean, who knows? My dad owned a motorcycle and snowmobile business. He was in the car business and got into the motorcycle and snowmobile business. And we were Kawasaki dealers, Skidoos, and all that sort of stuff. And he built a business. We have 3 stores in Toronto, and with almost 1,300 dealers coast to coast, because we sold everything. But he got it all from the States and imported it into Canada. And when he'd go do sales calls in the summertime at the go-kart tracks, I was probably 7, and there'd be nothing going on during the week, the owners would say, "Do you want to drive a go-kart?" So they go out there, I'd put a helmet on, they'd pull the cord, and I'd go drive it until I ran out of gas and come run back up to the place and go, "I ran out of gas." They go, "Give me another one." That's all I did. So I did that for a couple of years. You couldn't start until you were 9 years of age then. So I started karting at the age of 9. Today they allow them 5 years old, I think it is, for kid karts. And my youngest son, Michael, did some karting out at Mark Dismore's track at Newcastle there. And I had to laugh because the dads are picking the whole go-kart up with the child still in it, putting it on the stand, and then pushing the stand back to the garage or the trailer or what have you. So changed completely from when I started, that's for sure. Yeah.
But fortunately for you, have any of your kids followed in your footsteps?
My oldest son, Christopher, is from Franciscan Hospital. He had no interest whatsoever. Great golfer and hockey guy. Michael, we never put any of the kids, had anything electric or motorized in the garages whatsoever, Leslie and I. And Michael found a go-kart rental track when he was 11 and a half years old, and then asked my wife and I, "Why have you never taken me go-karting?" So that was the start of Adventure, which led him down to do a lot of karting, won a lot of championships, and got then into F4, which I'm working at now. F4 is a great car, carbon fiber tub, very safe. He's 6'1", which is hard to say when you're my size. So my oldest son's 6'3", Michael's 6'1", didn't fit in the car real well. But he did some karting and then got in some cars. The last race that I ran actually was with him at Mosport in Canada, my home track. And we did a 3-hour race in the FAF BMW. And FAF just won at Sebring the weekend. FAF is, my wife worked for them and I drove for them. And we did a 3-hour race and won the GT2 class. So we were both in the podium at the same time, which is probably the highlight of my racing career. I mean, besides doing all the stuff in Indy and Le Mans, whatnot, it was pretty cool to be on the podium with him. But he did very well at it, was very fast. But then he has another love, flying, and he's now a commercial pilot with Republic Airlines. So that's the fun side. So I stopped paying, so I was happy. There you go. Yeah.
Now you can go to him, borrow some money. Pilots make good money.
Yeah, he's a training. He's not only now a rated commercial pilot, but he's also training new pilots that are coming in because he's with Lift Academy that's here in town. As a matter of fact, he's flying tonight. So yeah, but we never had anything electric or gas powered in the garage. And my daughter, as you know, was into horses for all those years, like my wife. So no, nobody's in racing except me.
How did you end up at 17 years at ESPN ABC? How did you get into the television work part of it?
It was really weird in a sense because I was retiring when I was with Panther in 2000, and then last race was at Texas, and we had then actually bought a cottage, so we were really going to try and slow down. And then Eddie Cheever asked me to run and test the Infinity project that he was working at and go and do the 2001 Indy 500, of which I did. We did a ton of testing that winter. Matter of fact, April of that year, before 2001 of May, we did 650-mile test at Atlanta Motor Speedway, nonstop. Just Dick Karam was running that program at that point in time. So I felt pretty good with the engine, and then unfortunately got crashed out in turn 2 that year, and that was my second broken back. Because the first one was in Rio de Janeiro when the rear wing failed. So a funny quick story on that, my wife had just given birth to Michael, who was born in February, and we were in Rio in March. My wife had complications, ended up going back in the hospital. And my in-laws were over, they're English, and so they came and they were staying with my wife. She didn't tell me or tell anybody that she went back in the hospital because she turned around and said, didn't want to disturb what you were doing, driving a race car. But anyway, so she gets a call from Derek Walker's team saying that, he's crashed, he's broken his back, he's in a hospital and here in Rio, and we're going to send him back to Indy. And so she didn't, it was a month after I got home before she actually told me the story that she went back in. So what the wives go through is really impressive. And so anyways, I had this broken back. I come home, I've got the clamshell on after Dr. Trammell finished with me for, I guess it was 4 months or what have you. And Buddy McAtee from Indianapolis Motor Speedway Television kept saying, you need to come into television, you need to be an analyst. I'm going, Buddy, I'm going to slow down. So anyways, we lived around the corner from each other, and we saw each other all the time. And it was actually a Thanksgiving, we were together in 2001. And he goes, you need to make a decision. What are you going to do? I go, I'll do it for 1 year. So I showed up, and 1 year turned into a long time, 17 years, but I loved it. And when you get to work with Paul Page and Bob Jenkins, the first year I started it, I could write a book about those two guys. I mean, and I still see Paul about once a month right now. And, unfortunately we lost Bob, but.
I remember you telling the story that you and Paul would ride back and forth to the track together. And you'd get in the car and you'd be driving along, and all of a sudden he'd say, so-and-so is coming out of turn 2, he's about to pass, and he'd pass it to you to show you how to broadcast, how to pick up.
Well, I didn't really have any training, so we were at the Phoenix test that year, 2002, because that's the year I started. And I kept asking questions. He goes, okay, let's do this then. We're on the way back to the hotel after the Phoenix test day. He goes, we're coming out of break, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, Paul Page here with Scott Goodyear, and we just saw da-da-da-da, and he starts talking, and then I just start answering, and we just started going back and forth with that, and he looked at me, he goes, well, that was easy, wasn't it? I go, yeah. He says, that's all you got to do. And I go, oh, that's all I got to do. So anyways, yeah, so there's a lot more to it, obviously, than that, because you're getting to know all the individuals and the stories behind it. And but I had a great teacher, both with him and Bob Jenkins. I mean, the first year was just wonderful, wonderful. They knew all the places to eat, I will tell you that. So that was a lot of fun. I gained 12 pounds my first year doing television. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind if you ever want to gain weight. I think it's interesting how these things evolve. You think I don't know how to do it, but he shows you how to do it, and it works out. And how could you have trained with two better guys than those two?
You couldn't have, no. And I was very blessed with that. Like I said, Paul remains a great friend today. And, I think that for me to get involved in that, and then with Dr. Jerry Punch and everybody else that was there, I mean, it's just, you could talk to them and sit with them and get into production meetings, and it was just great to be able to learn from them.
One thing that you did that I know you did every time, and I, to this day, I miss hearing that, is you would explain what being loose is, what, all of the intricacies of what makes a car go. I don't watch soccer because I don't know the rules.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch hockey. I don't know what the heck the rules are.
Right.
But you told people, and I know you were questioned, what are you doing that for? Because there could be new people listening and they don't know what I said.
Well, I was really directed by Buddy McAtee at that point in time about, somewhere along the lines that you're doing the show for the people watching television, the fans, not the people in the garage, and they probably won't like what you have to say if you're doing your job right, type thing. And then when I got to ABC and ESPN, I was told the same thing, go ahead and explain it so that people at home can understand it. So, yeah, I definitely probably explained what understeer and oversteer was and all that sort of stuff a couple of times per show, but there's new people at the top of the hour, the bottom of the hour, because people change channels and that sort of stuff. So, no, I always got it from the people in the garage. Why you explain that all the time? Or we know what's going on. I go, I know you guys know what's going on. We're not doing the show for you. We're doing the show for the viewers at home. So, that went on for quite a while. But it's nice to explain, when you're out at the grocery store or something like that, and somebody comes up to you, and a lot of times it was actually husband and wife, and she goes, no, I enjoy it because actually, you're telling me what I don't know, and I'm learning a little bit about it so I can sit with my husband or what have you and watch it. So, probably did it a little bit differently. I mean, the stuff that the guys that are on there right now do an absolutely wonderful job with Townsend and with Hinch. I get to catch some of that stuff, when we're not at events running, and, just the whole group that's there right now, I enjoy watching it because you can really tell what's going on. This guy's very informative.
Well, strange thing, the end of the program next month, the 25th of April, Hinch is going to be here. So
Oh, cool.
Mark that. Something
Hopefully
else.
hopefully the Toronto Maple Leafs are still in the playoffs.
Then
You'll have to ask him
he
about
probably
that.
won't show up.
Yeah. Well, you better check on that. If there's a game on that Tuesday night, you're probably right, yeah.
You worked for, Audi, and did demonstrations of cars up in Canada. And
Right,
that program fell apart when the COVID took over.
Well, we started in 2012, and the Audi driving experience, which is still going in parts of the world. Germany still runs it, and we did it coast to coast and did it for a long time, put a lot of effort into it. It stopped in 2020 when COVID came along, and it's interesting to note up there that we still ran our series here. We changed dates, we delayed, and we were at that point at that time on the phone with the track, and sometimes we'd be on phone with the state because sometimes the region where the track is, take Mid-Ohio, for instance, had one way of a rule that they were going to run it, and then the state had a different rule. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. Sometimes we didn't know if we were going to get to the track and be able to run. We told teams and families that they could only have one family member coming with the young drivers because our drivers started at the age of 15. It was a lot going on for that whole thing. So I understand the issues that went on, but we were lucky because we were still being able to run our business down here going racing. In Canada, the government closed facilities down. The government closed Mosport down. And Ron Fellows, I was just with Ron 2 weeks ago, is a very good friend, and everything closed down for them. They were closed a year and a half before they were able to open up, and it was the following August where they were actually able to put cars on track. And so it wasn't. We were very lucky from that sense down here. We didn't have a racetrack to go work at it, and then Audi went and did a survey for the people, and our program is that you come along, you drive a car, but you also are meeting other people in a business-to-business scenario, which is great for business, and you're getting in a car as a passenger, and you're meeting a colleague that's new, and they form a relationship. Well, nobody wanted to sit in a car with a stranger, obviously. So and so as it turns out, a couple of years later, we got a lot of things happening now with electric vehicles, and budgets went to other places, and so it didn't start up again. But we ran for a long time, very successful. We did a lot of product launches. Our longest program that we ran for Audi was 33 days, and shortest one was probably about 7. So really enjoyed it. And I drove for the Audi factory, and so it's been part of the program of getting going there. It was fun.
You are now working with Tony Perella, who is the owner of SVRA. He is now also the owner of the F4 and F3 series,
Right.
as well as Trans Am and Trans Am 2.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. The man is nonstop. And how
Yeah.
did you get connected with him for the F4 and F3 series?
I thought I had a lot of energy. I'll tell you what. And it was funny because I'm up early anyways, and I remember I've now been with Tony going on 3 years because when he came along and bought F4, F3, and FR. So I'm up early. I sent him an email one morning at, 5:40 or something like that. I get a response back. So I talked to him later in the day. I go, I'm sorry, I didn't want to wake you up. He goes, I'm up and going anyway. So we have conversations at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, but he'll also call you at 10:30 at night. And you better answer the phone. So it's interesting. The guy has energy, unbelievable. I mean, his success that he's had in businesses with everything that he's done. His last company, he bought out of bankruptcy. And he turned around and built it up to being one of the top 100 companies in the United States to work for, and ended up selling it to Aero Electronics, which is part of McLaren.
Strange.
So, just an amazing individual. I've learned a lot from him from a business point of view, but I went to work for, after television, to SCCA, Pro Racing, to be the race director. And then when he came along and bought the F4 and F3 and FR property, I just stayed on, so it's now grown. So as we talked about earlier, I've gone and done some TV for Trans Am in the last couple of years, just did Sebring a couple weeks ago. And he's probably up to 35, 36 employees now. It's a going concern.
Really?
It's a massive company that he's got going on. And it's car shows are running. He's got people that go and do the car shows and lead into the car shows. We have car shows of 400 or 500 cars at different venues that we go to, and they get to drive on the track. It's a business concern. He's done a great job with it. He's got a lot more that you're going to see here shortly. He's got a lot in the go, so
He's
it's
always
great.
got a lot in the go.
Yeah.
The last time I interviewed him was during the COVID, and everything was pretty well shut down. He didn't know where he was going to win. And I said, "What about your employees?" He said, "I've kept them all, and we
Yep.
paid them all. We didn't
Yep.
lose a soul.
No.
Kept them all going."
Yep.
And the man is smart. He did pick up some companies that were in dire straits, and he turned them around and sold them and did very, very well for
Yeah.
himself. And
Yep.
was rated, as you said, one of the top 100 companies in America to work for,
Yeah.
which tells you he's one heck of a good guy.
He's a businessman that got into racing. He, these now, I think, the 10-year anniversary for him and his company. He bought a vintage company in California. He was in Dallas, Texas with his companies, and he bought an old Corvette because he loved cars. He wanted to go racing, never had the opportunity. Went to the series in California, was not happy with the way it was run because it wasn't organized very well, so he bought it. And then he fixed it. And then he bought another one, and he grew that one bigger. And then he bought the SVRA, I think 10 years ago now. So he's had the SVRA, I think, for 10 years, and so he's 10 years in the business. So he's now starting a series for endurance cars. There's a lot going on right now that he's got working. So he just had Richard Petty as Grand Marshal at Sebring. And Richard went and spoke at the evening dinner that they had on Saturday night. He's got a lot happening.
And Kim, I understand, now has roller skates just to keep up with him.
Yeah, his wife Kim. Yeah, she's.
She is a
Yeah,
princess.
I gotta expect that. you got to get going if you're going to be around him. And all the employees are energized by him. Yeah, we just had a sponsor forum at Sebring, and there was 80 people there representing 56 different companies. Yeah, it was including WeatherTech and what have you. It was really impressive what he's done, and for him to stand up and do public speaking and presentations is one of the best that I've seen. It's been impressive.
And he has always been able to pick up sponsors. He told me at one time his goal was to have the entrance for the SVRE events no charge.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have the sponsorship money to cover the cost, and I don't know if he's accomplished that yet or
Well,
not.
we just did our first test of the year down at NOLA. We just had our first race there 2 weeks ago. Our test was there at the end of January, and if you are part of our series, you got to come and test for free. So he didn't charge the drivers of the teams to test. So no, he does things the right way. He's got a great following. There's no doubt about it.
So, all right, what's next for you?
Well, I've gotten to about quite a few more events to do this year, yeah. Yeah, I'm just enjoying the F3 and the FR and the F4 series. Like I said, interesting for us, we just had 31 cars in F4 at the first event we had. Got 6 different countries represented in both our classifications. In the top 3 in both series, we have a New Zealander is second in the F3 FR series, and third place, Jesse Lacey is third, and he's from Australia. Got a lot of international content with our drivers. Our last year's champion in F3 FR won a scholarship from Honda, and he's running in Super Formula in Japan this year. Raul Hyman, he's going to do a great job. So it's neat to sort of see the drivers that have come through the programming, and we've got one of the early champions is already IndyCar with Kyle. I mean, there's just a lot of guys that are doing a great job, and I think Kyle Cooper has done a great job this year. But I see Conor standing over here, so we got IndyCar represented here this evening. So I love what I'm doing right now because I get to watch these kids. We got some kids in Europe that are into F3, getting to F1. I tried going over there. I think Conor went over. You were over there for years, right? I mean, 3-4 years or something like that. 4, yeah. It's how tough that is. It is a very tough deal. So, I think there's going to be more of our drivers headed towards IndyCar. So that's the nice thing. That's my plan.
And what is it you do? You point, or you carry a clipboard and say, "Why aren't you here?"
No, I'm a race director, so I stand and. It's like we were talking about flying before with my son being a pilot now. It's like being up in, air traffic control. And but you've got 31 drivers that, and this series is growing. We'll have more in the next race at Elkhart Lake. You're riding with them because they're 15 years of age, which is the youngest age that they allow to come into the FIA series. And our series is FIA sanctioned, obviously, so they're getting super license points, and like I said, our series champions move on. If you win F4, you get a ride in F3 FR the next year within here, and then if you win F3 FR, you go to Japan with Honda. There's a lot of serious kids. There's a lot of talented kids, but I think my part is to let them know and the parents know that this is a business, because it's interesting that I come and watch all these kids coming from every corner of the United States and Canada. We've got a driver now, Patrick Woods-Toth, who's second in the points championship in F4, just did his first race and ended up being second in the championship. I watch all these kids come from winning at their level in karts or whatever they've done from around the world, and they get here and they all expect to be on the podium, all 31 of them. The parents expect for them to be on the podium. So basically by the end of the first weekend or sometimes by the second weekend, I have a lot of parents coming to me and going, I'm not sure what's wrong, we're not winning. Well, you've got all these people at this high level coming to win the championship because there's scholarships for it. So there's a lot of disappointed drivers and parents. A lot of it is sometimes managing parents' expectations. I understand it because I've been through it and, understand how hard it is to be able to get there. But I think the most important thing for me is all about safety. That's why when you talk about Tony coming on board, with SCCA, I wanted to put the Delphi yellow light system that was on IndyCar into our cars when I came aboard. And it was $48,000. And SCCA goes, we didn't have the budget for it. I understood that. Tony came on board, bought the series in October, November that year. I made a presentation to him via Zoom, and told him what I wanted to do and wanted to put the yellow light system on there and went through the whole thing. And he asked me one question. He said, okay, I have vintage drivers, but I'm getting into this now, but you're telling me it's going to be a lot safer for these 15-year-old kids because they're first into cars. I said, yeah. You know, he said to me, buy it.
Buy it.
Buy it. We bought it. So everything about safety is what we're doing. We just implemented the new yellow light boards that F1 has been having for a couple of years, and they're now in IndyCar and all that sort of stuff. We just bought 25 of those and all the controls and everything that goes with it. That's the price of a small house. He's buying it.
Do you hook that up?
I don't. I'm not doing that. No, there's people that are. No, it wouldn't work if I hooked it up. Okay, so let's just be clear about that. Yeah, so people are going there and hooking this up. It's called Flagtronics. It's a wonderful system, and you know, so we have the onboard system on the car. We have the light panels there, and that's obviously amortized over all the platforms because we've got SVRA, we've got Trans Am, and we got all the other stuff that Tony owns now. So, but you know, it's a businessman that decided to go and buy some vintage series. And because he thought I could make the series run better and I can come and race, I won't be so upset it's not working well. And now he still has his cars, but I don't think he's driven in 5 years because he's just way too busy for it. So, yeah.
Well, at least you've retired, but you haven't retired.
Yeah.
You're still busy, and Tony will keep you busy,
Yeah,
no doubt.
You sound like my wife.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Does she have I don't have a high voice like she does.
Yeah. No, she's had her pastime with, unfortunately she fell off her horse 2 years ago and broke her back.
Oh, geez.
So I told her leave the broken back program to us professionals because, you know, and yeah, so she's no longer on horses or anything of that nature, unfortunately. So, yeah, we've all got our things in all our sports. You have to go and follow your passion. So I didn't think I'd be doing this and took it on, and I thought, okay, I'll be there for a year or two. But when you get into it and you can affect some change and you can make things better, and then you get to see how the drivers develop, it's great. Like I said, 15-year-old drivers, they don't even have a driver's license yet. They're not used to looking down the traffic lights. They're used to looking at the go-kart that's in front of them and the helmet that's in front of them. And so when they come to us, I need to get them to understand there's a lot going on that you need to look. Flag locations for the corner marshal stands and things like that. I give them a map on the track walk the night before, and I make sure they mark on their map exactly where they're supposed to go and see all this sort of stuff. And I implemented when I first got there that the first 2 laps for every racetrack we go to on the very first session is full course caution. The flags are waving so they get to see what the flags are. I mean, I don't think in karting, I don't think I looked when I was that young. I don't think I looked for flags. I mean, you race karts. I mean, you're just trying to pass the cars in front of you, and that's the mentality that I have with all these kids is that they just want to go fast, and unfortunately, they think they're driving a 300-pound go-kart when it's really a 1,450-pound car, and it doesn't maneuver, it doesn't stop, and you know they all try to go to the same point, which is the apex, at the same time. So. Sometimes it doesn't work.
True.
Yeah.
You're right, it doesn't.
Yeah, but we're having good success, so we're
good.
pleased with it.
And you have a pilot and a golfer in the house. No race driver.
No.
And a horse.
I'm not paying money. Yeah, yeah. So my joy is going up with Michael. Go out of the little airport in Zionsville and just go up there and fly around. Sometimes it's very peaceful. It's very nice and but that's his day job. So with Republic. So yeah, it's fun. And my oldest son, matter of fact, these guys, Conor and Christopher, grew up with each other, and we talk about this all the time. And pictures of these kids in their pedal cars and all that sort of stuff that they had over the years, but gone different directions. Chris is now a senior business analyst with Franciscan Hospital, so he wasn't into motorized or anything of that nature. He was just into golf and yeah. The difference between the two boys when we were getting Christopher a car, and Chris is tall, he's 6'3", so I wanted to find something with airbags, right? And so I was looking at stuff and everything like that. He goes, well, Dad, I just need a car to be able to get to the golf course. That's how stuff. He didn't care. Michael was getting of age, and here comes the books with all the cars. Go, this is a GTI, Dad. This is exactly what I want, So it was a completely different deal. So, yeah, so I had to laugh at that. Completely different, yeah. But nobody in motor racing, so with the exception of Dad, still taking care of stuff.
Do you and Scott Sharp still?
I haven't talked to Scott in probably a year and a half or 2 years because he's out of motor racing now. We used to live across from each other and
We used to tear
fly
up
to
each other's yard. And
Oh yeah, we used to have fun with that. Yeah, we're both pranksters. But we used to fly together to all the events and vacation with the kids and everything of that nature. Then he got in endurance racing, and then he moved to Florida. And yeah, there was a lot of pranks going on with that. Just a 30-second quick one. Would never pick up his newspapers. Got 4 or 5 newspapers every morning back in those days when you read a newspaper, and they'd be on, and he'd drive over them out of the driveway in the morning. So a couple of buddies in the street, we turned around and we collected our papers for about 3 weeks, and then we all sat in my garage and got a big bag of what do you call them here? Elastics, rubber bands? I'm not sure the American term for it.
Rubber bands.
Okay, rubber bands. And then, so we sat there and took every paper apart and made 4 papers out of one. We must have had 200 or 300 of these things. So we went over one night at 10 o'clock and we had bags, green garbage bags full of it. And 2 of my buddies and myself, we just threw them all over the place. They were everywhere, including in the bushes and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it took him, well, he knew right away who did it. So, yeah. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. But, yeah, he had a very good career. Very good career.
Well,
But I know we started late, so I should be jumping off here so you can get this young man over here on up here.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come here. I'm very. Your office was nearby, so you knew where Green Street was.
Well, we used to have the SCCA office, but it's now been closed. We closed that when Tony took over, so I haven't been in here for about a year. But yeah, I did send him a text just before about 6:45 or something like that, and said, "Hey, I'm still at home. Where's the limo you were sending for me?" So he was like, "What?" And then I walked in. So yeah.
Well,
But we'll let
time.
Conor get up here.
Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Always good to
Enjoy
see
what
you.
you're
Glad you
doing.
guys are
Tell
back
Tony I
doing
said
this
hello.
with. All right.
While Conor is on his way up here, I want to introduce, you see this young man sitting here at the camera. He is an intern for Speedway Cable TV. He's a junior at Ball State University, and he's the grandson of Mr. and Mrs. Glenn and Mary Timmis. This is Nathan Newman. So he's our. My next guest, as you can see, is a race driver. And he's been driving many races of late. He has competed in the Daytona 500. He, of course, will be in the Indianapolis 500. He was down in St. Petersburg and got through a wreck that I have no idea, and I bet you don't know how he got through it. But say hello to Conor Daly.
Hello, everyone.
First question I got to ask you, did you think you would make it through?
Oh, well, it's very hard to see around that corner, and
Yes.
Benjamin Peterson proved that. But I mean, there's like that corner. It has been sort of ruined. Like they repaved it, and it used to be like kind of sketchy and a little, but like easy flat, like full throttle for us. But like for some reason, every session, I don't know whether it was the paint they used on the surface, but like you saw Newgarden hit the wall there twice, McLaughlin hit the wall there twice. Stingray Robb was in the wall there. I mean, it's not really a corner. Like, usually you can get used to corners like that. But for some reason, you'd feel like you had a ton of grip in qualifying on, like, brand new reds or greens or whatever they are now. And all of a sudden, the thing would just snap loose. So it was just a really chaotic corner. And so if anything was going to happen, it was probably going to happen there. And I guess I just saw, like, one puff of smoke. And that was kind of what I was kind of like, well, something's going to be happening. But I mean, you never know. Like, you can't, part of our job is to react. So that's what I did, I guess.
And the thing that had me surprised a little bit, I went back and looked. Ben Peterson came from the back.
Oh, yeah, he was behind me.
And
I
plowed
couldn't
into
get
somebody.
much back
Was
further
there
back.
any, did the yellow come out? I didn't think it
Oh,
did.
no, I
That's
mean,
what-
it all happened within, like, less than a second. So, like, it was,
he came sailing around there full bore
yeah.
and went,
When you
whoops.
think of how short that time period is from, like, when I got on the brakes to, like, when he was hitting it, it's, like, literally a total of 3 seconds. So, like, it's impossible to really – he was just committed. And, like, if there was a hole there, it would have been great for me. Would have made up 10 spots. But there was no hole. I found it. That was it.
Well,
But on both sides of our car, the left side tires were completely rubbed off. So, like, I was in the wall on the left side, and the underwing on the right side was also scraped. So technically, I'd hit both sides, but we just happened to squeeze through.
All right, we've got to ask you, as a veteran from IndyCar and in Europe and F4 and so forth, you were in Daytona. How is the comparison between the cars and the events?
Well, yeah, me and Scott's son that was our first race car. I think those pedal cars. Some of the greatest photos are me and his son in our driveway in pedal cars. But we came a long way to get to the Daytona 500. It was very, very different. Obviously, and our situation was a little bit less capable, I would say, than others. Because NASCAR, I don't think people understand how high level it is now. Like, it's very, 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 very competitive. And, like, what they're putting into those cars, although they are the same chassis, technically, whatever they say, you know, it's not. Like, there's still so much those teams are doing. They're spending, you know, $25, $30 million a year per car. They're in the wind tunnel every day. They're in the simulator every single day, like from 8 a.m. until like the night, like till late at night. And then they run again early in the morning. So like there's a lot that goes into those. And you used to be able to, like, if you got a car and you put it together, you could probably show up there and like do a decent job. But like there's so much now, and I think we kind of experienced that a little bit. But I mean, honestly, we got super lucky, insanely lucky to make it. But once we like actually did get some laps and kind of sort out the car a little bit so it was at least drivable, I really enjoyed parts of the race, and it was like I have a lot more respect now for it. After competing, like the first 20 laps, you know, thankfully there were cars that were forced to be behind me so we could keep up. But when you lost that energy, it was impossible. Any other car was probably okay, and I had a lot of guys that tried to help me, Travis and Ross Chastain and a couple different Allmendinger as well. But they were just like, yeah, there was just no hope there. I'm like, that's fine, I get it. So it was totally. Like, if we didn't make it, well, everyone kind of didn't expect us to make it anyway. But the fact that we did make it, there was a lot of positives to it. And, like, we learned a lot, and it was, like, a really good financial bonus for the team. Because, again, they have 2 employees, that team. So it's owner guy, 2 employees, and, like, that's it. So Floyd Mayweather's not really involved. He's just kind of got his name on the background of it.
Did he part with any of his cash that he brags about having?
No. In fact, none. Yeah.
You're going to run several more races throughout the year.
Yep.
When there's an open weekend and they're running and you're going to run.
Sort of. I mean, I'm running this weekend in COTA because it's obviously we have way too long of a break between IndyCar races, so there's plenty of time to do something. But after that, it's fully focused on the whole IndyCar summer, and like we might do 2 other races later in the year, and one of them being the Brickyard weekend, which is obviously IndyCar and NASCAR the same weekend, which I think would be cool. And then maybe one other race as well. So I don't. It depends on how the kind of year works out. But getting into a road course at an oval early on in the season, and honestly, I like COTA a lot, and I think it'll be a really cool event. And we definitely have much more of a shot of at least competing at a road course because you don't have all the wind tunnel stuff. There's a lot less downforce on this new package they have. So it's it'll be and Kimi Räikkönen's doing it, Jenson Button's doing it, like Jordan Taylor, like all these good guys that I think will be fun to race against.
Now, you came up with a sponsor, BitNile, kind of. I mean, you were approaching him, and in Las Vegas, you put a program together, and he has really come up and backed you 100% in what you're doing and wanting to do. What is BitNile? What do they do?
Well, it's the golden ticket, really. I mean, that's as a driver, that's what you search for all your life, because realistically, you ride this momentum of people wanting you, and then it goes away at some point. But then if you have a sponsor, everyone wants you. So that's awesome, because like I obviously still have a lot to do and a lot that I want to prove in IndyCar that I probably haven't had the chance to do yet. And we kind of have we have at least a better opportunity to do that now. But yeah, Todd and BitNile.com. Very younger generation, I would say, partnership with them, with like this. The website that they've launched, BitNile.com, is basically an integration with. How am I best to describe it? Basically, you can go to the internet and hang out with all your friends and buy stuff there and drive race cars there on the internet, all while you're together with everyone. And it's kind of like an internet marketplace. And it's something that to be honest, like as a person who thrives on technology and loves gaming and stuff like that, it's actually really cool. But like, it just will take time for people to catch on to that. And it's super easy to get onto as well. It's not you don't have to have an Xbox. You can do it on anything that has access to the internet. And you're a big internet guy. I mean, look, this is the internet right here. So you could get on it.
Goodnow.com.
I'd love to see you on there, actually.
Remember that for me,
Yeah,
will you?
yeah. I have faith in you.
You know, when you announced that you had picked up a sponsor, you've been talking with them about it in Las Vegas. The whole program came together, and now he's the primary sponsor for Ed Carpenter Racing for all the cars. He's got to be loving this, and is he getting the exposure that he wants out of it? I know he's getting it from you, obviously.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, it's grown a lot, and I've kind of like I'm not really as in control of it as I would have liked. There's a lot going into it where instead of like just focusing on maybe making one part of it as good as it could be, it's like we want everything, and it's like, well, cool, but like what if we focus on one area and like spent actually less money, but like maybe did more with my entry, you know what I mean, whatever that is. And obviously that might be a little bit selfish, but like it is cool to have the team branded all together, right? Like it's great. It limits us with new partnerships, which is interesting, but it is cool to have that type of sport. I mean, there's no other partner in IndyCar that is doing that. So, you know, you have the McLaren cars that sort of look the same, but they're all 3 different primary sponsors, so like it's all kind of spread out. You know, the only really primary sponsor that you remember doing that was Target, right? Target, you'd have the 2 Target cars always, and like that was what I always remembered. And so it's great to have this because it's a dream scenario, and I hope it continues. Like obviously we want to use IndyCar, and IndyCar has to grow for it to keep going that way, you know what I mean? Which we're all working on as well. Yeah. So fingers crossed, we'll see. I mean, it's a dream scenario for me because I've got to do so much more than if you would have asked me 3 years ago if I would have got to do all 17 IndyCar races, 4 NASCAR races, whatever else we've been doing.
BC,
I mean, it's crazy. Well, no, I've retired from dirt racing, so yeah. I've retired from dirt racing.
What's your outlook for the 23 season for IndyCar? Do you see improvement from last year? Do you think the competition is obviously very good?
Yeah. I mean, everyone is very good, and every team is making improvements. I would say that right now we are going to be good at Indy, which is obviously the most important part because there are no rule changes. Nothing could really be different. And the Indy GP seems to be a place that we, for some reason, also succeed at. It's a high grip track. That's usually our strength. But honestly, we are still in need of a large mechanical grip gain at a lot of the low grip circuits. So the street circuits, tracks like Road America, but Road America is repaved, so we're hoping that helps us as well. Laguna Seca is a really, really tough one for us. Both Renus and I. Like Renus for sure is a very, very good driver, but like a lot of those tracks last year where we sucked, it was both of us sucking. And like that makes me as a driver not feel as bad because obviously I think people with Renus, you see he's a race winner, he's been on pole, whatever, and that's awesome. But we as a team, I think for sure realize kind of where we're struggling, and it's important, I think, be real about that because every other team, like even Andretti Autosport was like, yeah, we had to make a lot of improvements in the offseason. Well, that's a really good team, and guess what? They showed up and were on pole. They were really, really fast. Every single car crashed in the race, but that's a different story. So I really do think this first half of the season is for sure our strong point. And then Iowa again is one of my favorites that I want to be more successful at. But yeah, there's a lot that we've worked on. I still, my own personal feelings are obviously different than others as well. But there's a certain area where I hope we do gain, and if so, both Renus and I for sure will be able to benefit from that. But our strong half of the season is for sure the first half of the season. Until we get to Iowa and Gateway, those are my favorites. I like those two.
How big a difference is there between the green tire and the red tire?
I mean, technically they're supposed to be the same. I would say, well, no, it's not true. They are fat. The green tire is actually just as fast as the red tire would have been at St. Pete. But what there seems to be now is like maybe some inconsistencies between sets. And again, Firestone, I'm sure would hate me for saying that, but like I'm pretty honest. I think they're pretty honest with it too. Colton was pretty honest with about it last year at the Indy GP. But I think it's just it's still a good tire. But like the goal of the red tire is for it to wear out. Like it is supposed to create that like different strategy, right? So I think if at St. Pete there wasn't that opening lap caution, it makes it very different because how long do people make the green tires last? Kyle Kirkwood was awful on the green tires at the end of that stint, but it makes it crazy. People are passing. There's a strategic advantage to it. So I don't think it's the concept of it is the same. For sure. It's supposed to wear out more, but I tell you what, I actually liked the way the green tire felt on like one ultimate lap of qualifying. We just weren't fast enough on it.
My eyes are getting old, but it seemed to me...
not yet.
It seemed to me there was an awful lot of debris as a result of the tires, more than I've ever seen, and bigger chunks of tire. Oh, yeah, it looked like it to me.
I mean, honestly, last year at St. Pete, when you had restarts and the tires got cold, it didn't matter if they were the primary tires or the red tires. The cars were awful on cold tires. And it was the same this year. So it's not any different. It's just... I think everyone, like, and this might sound weird because, like, everyone is a really good driver, but there were a lot of people, and no one was giving up. Like you saw McLaughlin, Grosjean, both of them were going to crash no matter what because no one wanted to be the guy that gives up. So, like, that's going to happen more. And, like, I think that's good, and I think a lot of our drivers will obviously realize that because we're professionals. So it's a matter of understanding what level everyone's at. And, again, the cold tires are still really tough. And it seems to be more so St. Pete than many other places, but that's kind of what makes restarts and, cold tires a little bit more exciting, I think.
But you can control them.
I mean, I guess that's what we're paid to do, but it's hard. It's hard. It's not the most fun situation in the world, I'll tell you that.
Do you think you get enough practice between events or during the year to be able to take and test tires and get the feel for them so you have a better understanding when you get to the racetrack and start using them?
Oh, any driver would love more testing. I mean, we have no testing at all. Like, it is just so awful. But, I mean, there's 27 full-time cars, so clearly we're saving money somewhere to put it into, more and more entries. But I think when the series is strong like that, you do want to put on the best product per weekend. So maybe if everyone is more prepared, it's a better race. I don't know. But it also, I mean, you got to think of how much money it costs per day to run these cars, and it's a lot. And the engine manufacturers are pushing to the absolute limit as well, and there are mileage limits on those engines. And, Joseph blew a hole through one of them in the first race. So, like, and I know that my engine and Felix's engine, like, we were in that same batch. So, like, we are all on engine number 2 already. So, like, it's kind of one of those things that it's all about mileage to help the manufacturers, but it's also cost. So, like, I would love to see 5 more days of testing. That would be amazing. But it also, let's say you run 200 laps in a day of testing. That's a lot of miles on an engine. So, who knows? If they'll give us another engine and a few more tires, we'll go testing anywhere.
Well, that would be nice. Do you think a couple ovals would be a good addition to the series?
Absolutely. Give me 5 of them. Give me a bunch more. We at least need to get to 20 races. So sign me up for Homestead. Sign me up for... I thought Atlanta looked great over the weekend in the Cup race. I thought that would be cool. And basically, any oval that Scott raced on back in the day, I think would be great too. Michigan, perfect. Sign me up 100 times for Michigan.
Well, we were down in Kentucky and stayed across the street from the Kentucky Speedway. And
Would love to do Kentucky.
They're talking about wanting to start coming back this year.
Oh, wow.
And they've started something the same with Chicago. They've got a race scheduled and they want to come back.
But the ovals, is the oval still there in Chicago?
Yeah.
Oh,
As far as I know,
all right.
it is. And Kansas City would be nice because when
I
you
love
get done,
Kansas City, yep.
when you get out of the garage area and go to the casino.
Exactly.
And
Richmond. We need to be on the East Coast, so why not Richmond?
Oh,
You know what I mean, I love Richmond.
And it's too bad because Richmond was on the schedule. And
I know.
COVID came out
I know.
and it went away and it's not back yet.
That was one I was really looking forward to. Those are my strengths. So
Yeah,
I like short ovals.
Do you have, when you came to Ed, did you bring your engineer with you or did you have one and now you two have been working together for a couple of years?
Oh no, yeah, I never get to bring anyone anywhere because no one knows where I'm going at any time. So I showed up to Ed's team, and my engineer Pete has been there for a while, and we've been working together. And Pete's been great, and we've had kind of the same core group. We got a couple new young guys this year as assistant engineers, but I tell you what, everyone has to work really, really hard because we're in the Chevy simulator 4 times a month. Like, we're flying to Charlotte every other week to be in the simulator. The engineers are there. They're working on everything they can do. The simulation side and the technology side of what our sport is very crazy right now because you have to do it. You have to be finding the smallest amount of time, and a lot of it they do on their computers. So I hope it works.
Well, it's known in IndyCar in particular, affect the best in the world. From first to last, it's usually less than a second.
Oh yeah, it's the best racing. It's the most competitive racing in the world, that's for sure. With easy. There's nothing else like it.
Well, I haven't had Mark Miles back with me because the last time I had him on, I said, on any weekend there's 8 or 9 guys that can win. He said, are you kidding? There's 17, 18 that can win.
I'm glad he could figure that out.
It's interesting how your progress has come along. You've struggled to get a full season, and now you're in your second full season. And it looks like your sponsor is loving what you're doing and sticking with it. And he's accomplishing hopefully what he wants. And here's a guy here that will be joining up there, I'm sure, very soon if he hasn't already.
There you go.
So, do you have time to play with
their game, the website?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll be doing it later tonight. Yeah, I'm doing an iRacing event at COTA later to try to practice for the NASCAR race this weekend, and then I'm going to do some BitNile stuff. So it is good to work with them. Yes, it is cool, and they have many other businesses as well that are involved. Like, they work with a company that's trying to develop a vaccine for Alzheimer's. Like, they're working on all kinds of stuff to do great things for people as well. They have a lot of property as well. They do a bunch of different stuff. They have a company that's doing a bunch of electric generators for car power, stuff like that. Like, all kinds of. They're involved with a company that turns old school buses into electric powered people transport vehicles in New York. So, like, there's a lot that's going on, and it's not just the bitnile.com side, but like that is what they're focused on, like, as the main front.
But I assume once you go to bitnile.com, you can find the other aspects of the company?
Well, bitnile.com's pretty focused on one thing, but yes, there are a few small things to find, and they work everything in it well. But I just hope that we can keep that going. And, like, again, Todd, who is the head guy, Todd Alt, he's the guy. He's like, look, if things continue to go the way they're going, like, I'll be with you until you retire. And I'm like, well, that's great, because I don't want to retire for a long time. So, that's the type of guy you'd like to have. I think of other, there's definitely been other sponsors like that with people in the past. I think you see it more in NASCAR. There's a lot of really good personal relationships. Like, the Bass Pro Shops guy is never going to leave, RCR or Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s team. You know what I mean? Justin Allgaier has been with the number 7 Brandt car for forever, and they're never going to leave him until he retires. So, like, there's a lot of good relationships like that, and hopefully this becomes one of those as well.
Well, I don't see any reason why not. It seems to me you're a good spokesperson for him, which is the most important. You do get interviewed a lot, and of course, BitNile's right there. And whenever
That's what it's all about.
when I pulled up the picture to announce that you were coming here, I looked for one that had the BitNile picture of you in it, so
Perfect.
I could use that.
Thank you.
And that's the name of the game.
Oh yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to do, or that you have time to do? You're going to do a couple this weekend, starting with NASCAR. Is there anything else? You've given up the dirt race at the Speedway.
Yeah, I've retired from dirt racing. Did too many front flips, but I gave it a shot, so it's fine. I want to do Le Mans. Le Mans is the only thing left, really, that I want to do on the list. And I'm talking to a guy at the Texas race about doing Le Mans. I met him through Travis Pastrana, and he wants me and Travis to do it with him. So who knows what'll happen there, but definitely want to do Le Mans. I actually have a longtime sponsor who has been he sold his company for many, many dollars, and he got into now sports car racing, right? And that's kind of what a lot of wealthy folks do at times if they've loved focusing on driving. And so he has kind of expressed interest in proceeding up the IMSA ranks, and like for when I get a little bit older, or maybe even depends on when, but he wants to do, all those endurance races and have his own team, and so that would be cool. So there's a lot of fun things in the future for sure, but I definitely don't. I want to do everything as much as I can do.
Well, why not?
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm enjoying every bit of it. I'm very, very lucky to be where I'm at for sure, and it's been. I'm very competitive, so I want to do well at certain things, and we've not been in the best scenario in a few different times, but. Like, I can't wait to go to Indy. Indy this year is the greatest thing ever. Can't wait to be there with this team. That's the main focus for sure, still, without a doubt.
Well, I think, by the way, is your father all right? He just hit 70. He's 70.
I can't believe that. I can't believe my dad is 70. No offense to anyone, but like, I couldn't. I had dinner with him last night, actually. He's here in town. And yeah, I don't know. I can't believe he's 70. He looks great, to be fair. He's doing fine. He was at the IMS Museum on St. Patrick's Day talking to some people, and he struggles. He's not at the track though because he's had too many concussions in his life, and so he can't really watch cars that well at the track, and so. A lot of people ask me why he's not at the track because like he hasn't been to any of my races except for really Indy per year, and that's what he struggles with now. It's like, and I didn't actually know, but he's hit a lot of stuff in his life. So like, I didn't know that, but like before you got diagnosed with concussions, like when he crashed in Michigan in mid 80s or whatever, when his massive accident. He hit his head hard there, and he's like, yeah. And then I hit my face on a jet ski, and then I hit my head skiing, and I was like. Why are you doing all those things? Like that is terrible. So he's kind of taking it slow on coming to. I wanted him to come to COTA this weekend, and he finally told me he's like, well, my head hurts, and I'm like, hey, that's all right. You beat that. You do your thing. So hopefully he's doing great, but his he's hit his head a few times, so he's got to make sure that's all right.
That's the excuse I use. She said, how come you can't do that? Well, I hit my head. I forgot.
It's crazy, but hopefully he'll be at Indy. Like I assume he basically tries to get himself ready for like Indy every year.
Is he going to be in town for a while?
I don't know, honestly.
I'll get a hold of him. Maybe I can get him in here on the 11th.
I think he leaves this weekend. I'm not sure. He will come back. Yes, he does. He does have a house here. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to have watched your career. You have never given up. When you didn't have sponsors, that didn't stop you from looking. And you didn't stop looking until you've been successful. And you're probably still looking to go to other forms of racing to bring some sponsorship with you when you go. If you move to Le Mans, the guy's got a lot of money, but it would be nice to bring a sponsor along. And some of the other stuff you're doing. Floyd probably doesn't need the money, but I bet he'd sure take more if you could come up with any.
I don't think he's getting any anyway. So he's just. I think it's more of a lot of that stuff is basically like a rights to sell the name and pitch sponsors for it. But yeah, I actually hate looking for sponsors. It's my least favorite thing to do, but it does keep me employed, so it is worth it to do it. But yeah, honestly, it's been tough, but it's part of the game. A lot of people don't focus enough on it. The biggest thing I would say to any young drivers all the time is like always be prepared to be doing business with people. You know what I mean? Like I always tell young drivers that. Because I'm old now, apparently, so I get to give those people advice. So, yeah, it's important, and you never know. You always be nice to everyone because you never know what relationship that could generate or what. This Le Mans thing is such a crazy story. Like, Travis Pastrana invited me to do this 24 hours of lemons race where you drive in cars that are supposed to be $500 in Houston. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. And he's like, oh, you got to come. It'll be great. Like, we'll have a great time. We're doing it in an old Chevy El Camino. And I was like, all right, fine. And so I paid my own money to go down there and we had a great time. We raced these awful, unsafe vehicles. But the guy who was part of our team is very successful and owns LMP3 cars and runs all this stuff. And he's the guy who's like, we got to do Le Mans now. And I was like, yes, we do. So let's, you just never know where you go, what you do. Was that race extremely unsafe? Yes. But we didn't die, and we maybe got a Le Mans right out of it. So you just never know what can happen. And just got to be cool to hang out with people and just got to talk to everyone you can. So it worked out great. And I met some guy from NASA down there. So, like, that was cool, too. Yeah.
Did he invite you on a rocket ship for the
Not yet, but I'm doing the research, so we'll see.
I found it kind of interesting. You were saying that the guys, like Travis, you've known for quite a while, but
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson was helpful. These
Yeah.
guys that were there to help you, obviously you know Jimmy from racing with him for 2
Oh, yeah.
years.
Jimmy's been
But
awesome.
they're willing to come up and help you and give you suggestions on what you need to do to get the car to go faster.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what Jimmy and Travis did for me at Daytona was super helpful. But I mean, again, they're just friends. I respect Jimmy. Obviously, he struggled a little bit in IndyCar or a lot, but I respected what he did, and we always talk, and we traded helmets. Was really just got to talk with him, have some drinks with him, just hang out, do whatever. And Travis has obviously been one of my best friends for a long time. But those guys, Travis knew what needed to happen for me to make the Daytona 500, and he was going to try to help however he could. And obviously chaos breaks out, and I got lucky to get in. But Jimmy was there right as I was strapping in the car. They said, "Driver, start your engines." I didn't even have my helmet on yet, and we're just Jimmy and I are talking, and I'm like, "This is kind of crazy." And then they just always are willing to help. So that's kind of cool to have people like that on your side. And it's been fun to be a part of this world, and doing stuff with those guys is, I look at them as heroes of mine still, even though I guess I'm kind of also in that racing sphere. But all of us doing the Daytona 500 was hilarious. We were just all we can't believe that we're doing this together.
Well, it's kind of interesting how your career has gone, and it seems to be on the upswing now, and it could be for quite some time, it sounds like.
That's the plan.
And unfortunately for you, as you know, I know how to get a hold of you.
That's all right.
So as the season goes on and things progress, you'll probably get another text.
Well, we're going to win the 500, so we'll have to talk after that. Definitely do that.
One thing for sure, when I made the mention that you sent out that you were coming here, the number of people that reacted, is he really coming? Well, yeah, as far as I know.
It's fake me. Yeah.
It even got Dr. Mark out of bed early
Oh, man.
and staying up late to come here.
Yeah, there you go.
You know how that works. So
How do we like the new space? I think it's nice.
Yeah.
I like Brownsburg, big racing town. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of racing up here.
well, I think this place is better than before, where people were talking, and if we were making too much noise, they'd shout.
Oh, well.
We don't have that problem. You're here to listen.
You're the important part.
No, you're the
Yes.
important
Well,
part.
I don't know about that. It's a team effort.
And what's his name over there is the important part as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
So I appreciate you guys coming here and taking the time, and we wish you nothing but the best at COTA. And of course, if they ever, is IndyCar going to start up again eventually?
Yeah, we're going racing to Texas in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Please watch it on television. It will be great. Honestly, I think Texas, to talk a little bit about that, I think it's going to be a great race. Well, slightly better, but we do have more downforce for Texas, which everyone got scared of. But now the racing's been so bad there that we're getting downforce back. So I think that's good. I love downforce. Downforce is my friend for sure, as my driving style. So I think it will be a better race. It's like the earliest race I've ever done in my life. We're going green at like 11:40 in the morning or something like that. But it's all about the TV window, so it'll be great for the East Coast or whatever time that is. You'll be barely awake on the West Coast. But I do think it'll be a good race. I think it'll be very interesting because of the downforce levels. I think everyone's going to be super trim for qualifying, so qualifying is going to be more interesting because that's obviously very important. But if you don't qualify well, the added downforce hopefully will help you race. So we'll see. All I need is my pit speed limiter work this year. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would help.
It was broken last year, and that's a big penalty. Yeah.
Have they cleaned the track off with that goo they put on? For
It's
NASCAR?
impossible. Yeah. The only way you're going to clean that off is if you repave the whole thing.
Well, I know that's hurt.
That costs a
IndyCar.
few dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's hurt IndyCar because you can't run 2 and 3 wides through the corner. Somebody's going to.
Well, I just wish it was old Texas. The old Texas was way better.
Oh,
Scott
yeah.
knows. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a great racetrack.
Everyone's scared though now. I'm not scared. I don't know.
The cars are quite safe in that new foam.
Super safe.
The
I
new
watched
foam
a car
was-
literally drive directly into another car and explode next to me, and everyone was fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's the cars are very safe. They're way too hot, but they're very safe.
Yeah, I bet it was when they had the red flag, you had to sit there. That had to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, all the above is there. There's a lot more to that story. That
Of course,
it's,
I'm sure there is.
yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate your time. Wish you nothing but the best this weekend.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to seeing you. If you don't have, let me tell you, if you don't have Peacock, you're crazy. That is,
There it
if you
is.
don't go to the racetrack, you can see the practice, you can see the qualifying, you can see everything that goes on. It's really worth it. And I don't go to as many races as I used to by a long shot. And when I see something I don't understand, I know enough people yet that are dumb enough to talk to me. I go, what was that? And they'll tell me. So then,
See, you're an internet guy. You have Peacock. It's fine.
oh yeah.
It's all good. That's the height of technology.
It took me 4 months to figure out how to put it on my television screen, though.
That's all right. That's a different story. I still struggle with those things too.
Thanks for your time. Good luck to you for the entire season.
Thank you.
As I said, you'll probably hear from me, and these people probably want to hear from you again.
For sure. Thank you,
Conor
guys.
Daly. The next program will be April the 11th. I don't know yet exactly who the guests are, but I've got a couple ideas, and they've said we think we're available. The 25th has been scheduled already, so on April the 25th, we have a program scheduled. I already have the guests, but I'll tell you that next time who they are, which I told you one already, actually. So until the next time, Don Kay saying thanks for being here, thanks for watching. Until April 11th, we'll see you then.